What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talking Halos. I'm your host today, Jared Timms, and I am joined alongside my co-host, my partner in crime, Nate Green. Nate, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Jared. How about you, buddy?
I am not doing too bad. Excited to talk a little bit of baseball here today. We got a little bit of, so you got a question of the day for you guys as always. We're going to talk a little bit. Should the Angels trade Luis Rengifo? His name's been out on the trade market for a little while. We're going to talk a little. Tyler Anderson's been linked to the Angels. Angels been in contact with the Rays. So stay tuned for that. All right, let's get this rolling here, Nate. We're going to talk some baseball as always. Like I mentioned before, we're going to have a little bit of a question of the day. And you were already cheating on this because you know to just look at my Twitter. Got a question here for you. Brought it out there. A lot of interesting names. I think there's two interesting names, and then there could be some other ones. Who will be the Angels' opening day starting catcher in 2023?
Okay,
Is it tough? Is it tough though? Is the question, or is it like it could be? It's a coin flip.
I think because most likely Shohei Ohtani starts opening day, you're probably going to let Max Stassi catch him just because of the experience and just the overall general he's caught him more times than Ohapi. So I think Stassi does get the opening day nod. Now, do I think he catches the most games this year? No, but I think just because of general who's caught him the most and just comfortableness, I think Max Stassi's the guy.
No free agents. That was what I'm really getting at. I mean, is it actually a 50-50, or do we think that Logan O'Hoppe possibly starts in the minors? That's I think what it comes down to, right?
I think even if you're bringing in somebody who is probably not starting opening day. You're probably bringing in like a Robinson Chirino, somebody like that, where it's like, hey, you have a shot to make the roster. Maybe even Roberto Perez, who, yeah, you probably have a shot to make the roster if you perform well in spring training, but probably not starting opening day. Probably going to let Max Stassi do that, especially with Shohei Ohtani, who you want to keep. You want to make sure that the guys who catch him have done it before, because he does have a lot of pitches, and he's probably not the easiest guy to catch just because he's pretty gross. So I think Stassi catches game one. Yeah, there's a bunch of different names, like I mentioned, Perez, Chirinos. I'm a huge Hedges guy. I think he would fit perfectly with what the Angels are trying to do back there. But I also think that if you're signing Hedges, you probably are trading Stassi. So things get crazy with where they want to go with that position. But I think unless somebody is going to give them a major league piece for Max Stassi is going to be on the roster because he's already signed. He's under contract. It's not a great contract, honestly, but he's when you're paying a guy $7 million, you just got to play him. Like there's no reason to sign a guy to let $7 million sit on the bench.
Yeah, just like Aaron Loop and Ryan Tepera. I'm not starting. I'm not opening any cans. I'm just messing with
you. You already did, but it's okay.
I'm in agreement with you. I do think that it is Stassi and O'Hoppe opening day. It'll be interesting to see the what is the word that I'm looking for? Chemistry between Logan O'Hoppe and Shohei Ohtani, because you would have to imagine that's the guy moving forward, especially if the Angels do think about re-signing Shohei Ohtani long term. You think that that's the guy, unless of course you bring in somebody to just catch Shohei Ohtani, which also makes sense because, I mean, in a sense, it's very similar to catching a knuckleballer. As weird as that sounds, I mean, he's got 6 or 7 different pitches. He throws triple digits. He can bring in the 60-mile-an-hour curveball. I mean, it's not easy to catch a guy like that. And then the Angels also have some really interesting, Ben Joyce is not going to be an easy guy to catch either, though O'Hoppe, I believe, has caught a good amount of Ben Joyce as well. So I get it, So I'm with you. I think it's Stassi. However, I mean, if Stassi's hurt, it's probably Ohapi and Thice, I would assume, or
I think they signed a
that's
guy at that point. Like
I
if
well, I would
Stassi's
also
hurt,
I also think
I
that
think they signed a guy, even if it
they
is a
need depth.
re-sign of Chad Wallach, even if it is a Austin Romine type of guy.
They do
Austin,
have they do
yeah,
have Anthony Mulrine down there, and I know a lot of people aren't going to know who he is. I love
he's
Anthony
not
Mulrine.
quite ready offensively though, is
He
he?
as a catcher, do you need a guy who's like he's going to be very similar? I think he's going to be very similar. He would be very similar to a guy like Austin Hedges at this point in his career. Austin Hedges is like a 200 hitter, right?
Yeah,
Right now.
but
So I mean,
Austin Hedges has proven that he
yes, yes,
could be the best defensive catcher in baseball, which is a little different than a guy who has got up to Double A,
Triple A.
maybe Triple A. Okay.
Mulrine's been Triple A. So that's the only reason why I bring up
Okay.
Mulrine's name because he does catch in Triple A. He was catching a lot of. I mean, I think we went back and looked at it, and it was the only guy not he's basically the only guy not catching Chase Silseth. Silseth was with I can't think of who it was in Double A, but not Watson. I can't think of who it is. I can see his face. I just can't. He's a TCU kid. Um, yeah, but Morine usually catches those type of guys. He caught Reed Detmers his entire career down in Rocket City as well. So yeah, definitely a name to keep an eye on with, but we'll see how it goes. That he's going to be in the org for a long time because he's one of those guys that just he's a good all around guy. He's a good player. He's a catcher. He's smart. He knows how to talk to pitchers. He's a good communicator. He's probably a coach in the long run because that's just what you look for in a coach. So
You just described Jose Molina from 2002, 2003.
are you upset that the Angels have Jose Molina down in
No,
AAA right
no,
now? Like
I was making that to be a good
yeah.
thing.
Oh yeah.
I'm like,
I mean
he's not a
now this got
starter.
into a minor league chat, but like I really like Anthony Mulrine. In fact, speaking of that, there's let's just like hint there because I feel like I'm gonna go try to get him on the podcast. Let's see if we can. So it's a good guy. So fantastic. I think we're both in agreement though. Max Stassi is the opening day starting catcher. Let's go ahead and get on to this. I did say we're going to talk a little bit of qualifying offers. Obviously, the Angels haven't offered anybody. Well, hopefully they didn't. I know, kind of a joke there. They didn't, to be honest. 19 million. They weren't going to give that to any of the upcoming free agents. They've only given it to one in the career, and they've signed three. Can you name? I mean, the one's easy. You name one, right?
Yeah, Syndergaard.
No, they did not offer Syndergaard.
No,
They
oh,
offered
Iglesias.
Iglesias. There you
Yes,
go.
I thought you were saying who did they sign?
They
Yes,
signed three
Syndergaard
guys.
was one of them.
They signed three guys. You know who those
Yes.
three guys were?
Syndergaard was one of them. Anthony Rendon was one of them. And oh boy,
Fan favorite.
Josh Hamilton.
There you go. Got it with fan favorite, huh? That gave it away. Fan favorite. So,
Yes.
do you ever look at it and are you ever upset that the Angels don't offer more guys, or is it just where they just haven't produced anybody? Like the
They
last
they
guy,
don't have anyone to
the last
qualify
guy,
offer.
the last guy that they could have was probably Mike Trout. Howie Kendrick got QO'd by the Dodgers.
Yeah.
When I was looking stuff up. So
But that was a
Kendrick was one of
trade.
those.
He wasn't even in the org for an opportunity to be qualified.
Yep.
Yeah, no, the Angels don't really
Mm.
have a guy where you're like, oh yeah, I really want to give this guy, it's gone from 15 to 17 to 18 to 19 now. They don't really have that guy who's been a free agent for them where it's like, oh my gosh, if we lose this guy and we're giving him and we don't offer him the qualifying offer, like we're idiots. They just haven't had that guy. Didn't mind the Iglesias qualifying offer last year. I'm a huge Iglesias guy. And it worked out fine for them. I mean, he resigned and then they traded him or whatever. But I don't think they really have had that guy. We're like, oh man, we really need to use this qualifying offer. I think it's more for elite players, and the next guy to be looking at would be Shohei Ohtani will get a qualifying offer from the Angels.
Yeah,
if
Ohtani
he is
definitely.
on their roster at the end of the season.
Ohtani, Taylor Ward, probably right after
Maybe,
that.
maybe,
Patrick Sandoval.
maybe.
I'm just throwing out names at this point because I mean you're looking at down the road. Those are the probably prominent figures. you'd assume.
You would hope
So
that Sandoval might get a long-term deal done before that, maybe like a 5-year deal going in the next year or 2. Taylor Ward, honestly, wouldn't be shocked if he's not on the roster opening day.
keep keep up with your fantasies, man. So
Just
um
saying. Just saying.
looking at the list of guys who got the QO, is anybody worth giving up that second round pick for that the Angels could sign? Now, Aaron Judge, Trey Turner. I mean, I'm going to give it. I mean, Trey Turner, Alexander Bogarts, I think are in the Angels' range. Dansby Swanson, same thing. I don't know if the Angels are really, I don't think anybody is really worth it besides that. I mean, Jake DeGrom, but I don't think the Angels are going to be in on Jake DeGrom. Aaron Judge, Angels aren't going to be in on Aaron Judge. Carlos Correa doesn't get
Nope.
didn't get the qualifying offer. He's a
He
shortstop.
was not allowed.
Yeah, I don't think the Angels are in on Rodon. I don't think the Angels are in on Nemo. I don't think the Angels are in on Contreras. And then beyond that, I don't think it's worth it. Like Chris Bassett, sure, maybe, but I'm not giving up. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't give him long term either. You look at Anthony Rizzo, that's another guy that I'm not going to give him any longer, any more money. Tyler Anderson, who we'll talk about shortly, I'm not going to do that. Martin Perez, they've already talked about going back to Texas. Jock Peterson's an interesting name, but I don't know.
I'm not giving up a second
Well,
rounder for that guy.
yeah, Nathan Evaldi, same thing. I don't think I'm giving
Not
up
giving up a
a
second
second
rounder
rounder.
for that guy.
Though you look at who. I mean, there aren't too many guys drafted with that second round pick, but it depends on how you are using that money to draft as well. It's not
Well,
just the player
well, it
name.
also depends on the draft too,
Yeah,
right? Like, I mean, we've seen the Angels. Brandon Marsh was a second round pick. Chris Rodriguez, second round pick, if I remember correctly,
fourth,
fourth round pick,
fourth
but
round.
in the same draft.
Yeah, I think so. To my
Paris, Paris, like they've had some decent second round picks that,
Jackson.
yeah,
Yeah.
they've had some guys that have turned into potential prospects. Like when I say potential prospects, I mean guys that like actually will contribute at the major league level and not just like Matt Thysett where they're up and down and not really a contributor.
Ben Joyce, overpaid third rounder.
Third round, yep. So they've had those guys that have been able to hit in the second round, and also like the only guy that you can really say has didn't work out for him is the Josh Hamilton one because he really hasn't been to the bigs. But the Nationals, that was what, 3 years ago. They could have drafted an 18-year-old kid. I don't know off the top of my head who they took.
Sammy Infante.
So he still has some time to get better, and he could be in the big leagues, and then we could be looking, going, man, that was a really good pick. That's a great pickup for them. And then same thing with the Mets this year. I don't. The Mets get it, or did they?
They drafted. I can't remember the kid's name. It was Nick something. If you give me a second, I'll look it up because I actually posted it today. But yeah,
but you know what I'm saying? Like some of these guys, it's really hard to say that it hasn't worked out for them. And you look at some of the teams that get comp picks and things like that, even if it's comp 1 or comp 2, some of these comp picks are really, really good. Like, I think
it comes down to money too. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
like
absolutely.
you can now then overpay in the first round for somebody. The Angels have been going under slot this entire time in the first round. What if
Mhm.
you could go at slot or over slot? I mean, that changes it up. You could have gotten Khalil Watson. I mean, I think they still could have gotten Khalil Watson over Sam Bachman. You could go out and pay for the kid the Rangers got in the third round. I can't remember his name right now. Who
Brock Porter.
Porter, yeah, you could have went out and overpaid for Porter if you wanted to, though Porter didn't make a lot. You could have still got him in the first, but yeah, I mean, you look at it and yeah, I mean, the Rangers went under slot with Rocker in the first, and I think they had another pick, and then they did go
I
end up
think they
getting
did really
Porter
good
in
in the
the third.
draft too,
Yeah, they
honestly.
had
But
a very good draft.
so to look at that, I'm not really, with the way that the Angels have been able to develop, the second round pick isn't really that big of a deal right now until they prove that they can develop, especially early round picks. Like everyone loves to say, "Oh, the Angels develop. The Angels develop. Look at Jared Walsh, 39th round pick." The only reason you say he's developed is because he was taken in the 39th round. If that guy was taken in the first round, people are saying, maybe, okay first round pick." Everyone points to David Fletcher, 5th round pick. Um, Griffin Canning, second round pick. Some of these guys are like average major leaguers, which is great. But like if they're taken early in the draft, people are going, we missed. So I do think that the second round pick isn't necessarily that big of a deal if you're going to compete. Like if the Angels are actually going to be competitive and be a playoff team, the second round pick doesn't matter. But if they're going to finish with their same old 75 wins, then that second round pick is going to mean something, because if they're finishing with 75 wins, Shohei Ohtani's walking out the door, and you need as many prospects as possible. You like, I don't care how much money you throw at the guy. The guy wants to win. So if you're going to, punt on this offseason and have a very poor season, Shohei Ohtani's going to be like, you know what, I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to go play for the Dodgers. I'm going to go play for the Mariners. I'm going to go play for a playoff team and have a shot to win a World Series, because I'm sick and tired of missing the playoffs. So that second round pick would mean a lot, because the Angels are going to need to draft a college guy to hopefully develop and get to the big leagues a little bit quicker than maybe if they were a playoff team with not as many holes. Maybe one or two holes. It's like, hey, we can get rid of that second round pick and you know take a Trey Turner for 8-9 years, or take a Xander Bogaerts for 6-7 years, because that second round pick, like, yeah, it might be good, but we know Xander Bogaerts is good. We know Trey Turner's good. So that's kind of my opinion. It kind of depends on where you actually want to be. If you want to be a playoff team, like, it doesn't matter as much. But if they're going to continue to mess around and, you know, we're good enough, this roster's good enough, it's deep enough, if we're going to keep hearing these answers, then, don't sign any of these guys, because you're not going to be good anyway.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree with you there.
But
Um,
there is like a limit. Like I'm not giving up a second round pick for Tyler Anderson. I'm not, and I know that's later on when what we're
good seg,
talking about.
good
Um,
segment there. I mean, that's
yeah.
that's fine with me if we want to jump right into it. I agree
So
with you. I mean, go back to it real quick. Also, the Mets. It was Nick Morbido, who's the Gonzaga kid.
yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, you already, I mean, bringing up Tyler Anderson as it is, yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I'm not giving up that second round pick for Tyler Anderson.
Nathan Evaldi, not giving up a second round pick for you.
There aren't too many guys that I'm doing that with, and the Angels are going to be connected to a lot of them. The Angels might get one of those guys. I'm with it. If you do get one of those guys, it's the same thing as the Noah Syndergaard thing. If you do get one of those guys, you need to sign him multiple years, because the Angels are
Yeah,
not in a spot to give up a draft pick. You just said it. Angels aren't in a spot right now to give up a draft pick for a guy that's a rental. I mean,
yeah,
1 year is a rental for all intents and
it is.
purposes. You don't build around a 1 year deal. You hope you get lucky. And I know the saying is no 1 year deals are bad. The Angels turned Syndergaard into a couple of pieces, and that's fine, because he was on a 1 year deal and such like that. The Angels get up a second round pick, and you probably get a Yadiel Sanchez type guy in that second round, anyways.
Maybe even a
So
Mickey Moniak,
yeah,
honestly.
Mickey Moniak type guy in the second round, anyways. A fourth outfielder who you're hoping might hit or something like that. So yeah, the Angels, did end up being pretty even, I think, in that trade. However, to get back to Tyler Anderson, yes, the Angels have been linked to Tyler Anderson. They've also been linked to some Rays pitchers. We'll get to those shortly. But Tyler Anderson, I'm not in on what he's gonna get. He's if he goes, assuming he goes to the free agent market, and we'll know this shortly if he does, and he doesn't accept a qualifying offer. If he goes to the free agent market, he either A, wants multiple years, or B, is going to want more than that 19 million over that 1 year. Fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for him, most likely, he probably will want years. I think he's realistic and knows that he's not going to be getting 25-30 million. He's 31 years old with a career 4.16 ERA. He,
Coming
has
off a
had the
career year with the
yeah,
Dodgers.
he's had the one good year with the Dodgers, and people are going to be skeptical of, like, oh, hey, like, he had a really good year with the Dodgers. But I mean, everyone has a really good year with the Dodgers. So I don't know if I really want to jump on that bandwagon, is kind of what I think most teams are going to say. So I wouldn't be shocked if he takes the qualifying offer, goes back, proves like, hey, it wasn't a fluke. I'm going to go out there, throw another sub-3 ERA up, win, 15 plus games, be another playoff starter, pitch pretty good in the playoffs. He didn't pitch that well in his playoff outing. So that's something too. Like, if he pitches good enough to get a playoff start and to like actually perform well in his playoff start because he came out of the pen. So that's the other thing too is like if I'm giving up a qualifying off like a second round pick on a qualifying offer and it's a pitcher, the dude better be a playoff pitcher. Like I can't be giving up a guy who may or may not be a playoff starter. Like that's not gonna fly for me. Like that's why I said Nathan Eovaldi's not gonna get one from me because probably not a playoff starter. Or if he is, he's that fourth starter, and you're like, we might use you.
I've seen Nathan
Oh,
Eovaldi shove.
he's great. Yeah,
The scary thing with Nathan Eovaldi though is what
the
is
arm injuries.
The two Tommy Johns in right now. He gets a
Yeah,
third one. He can't raise that arm above his head. He's never pitching again.
yeah.
So
Or like Carlos Rodon, like the way he pitched the last 2 years, like he's a for sure playoff arm if they get to the playoffs. Jacob DeGrom, he's he's starting a playoff game if you get to the playoffs type of thing. So that's kind of what I would be looking at. Tyler Anderson, just the numbers don't really back up the success of this year. And I would be very, very scared to sign him, especially knowing like the Dodgers basically can turn anything into a to look like that. I mean, how many times have we seen them just like sign some random guy, he has a great year or two, and then go somewhere else and he's back to being a nobody. So I would be very, very scared to give him anything more than 19 million. And honestly, I wouldn't even give him 15 million. Like I think he's more of that
that was going to be
10 to
that was going to be my price. I was going to say 3 for 45 is the max that I think that
and I
that you give a guy like that. And I don't know if I feel comfortable giving him 3 for 45 at 15 a year. I think I feel
I was
comfortable
gonna say three to
at
33.
3 for 30, 3 for 35. That 10 to 12
I
range,
would sit
12 and
at
a half range.
33 would be my max,
30.
which is
Yeah,
11
yeah.
mil a year. So
That's where I would feel comfortable for sure. Yeah. I'm in
yeah,
a I'm in full agreement with you there, man. I really am. So, more news on the offseason front. Angels are in on some Rays pitchers. Again, always a scary thing when Rays want to get rid of major league talent. I know we talk about this all the time off the record, but yeah, it's always weird when the Rays want to give away major league talent because it ends up not working out for them, for the team that acquires that guy. So, while yes, it's always fun to, overpay for a Rays pitcher because he's pitching well in Tampa, it doesn't always work out. And I think, we can kind of close the door on this one pretty easily that let's stay away from these type of guys, right?
absolutely. Ryan Yarbrough is a no go. The only guy that really intrigues me a little bit is Torinos. I know he's coming off TJ through 7 innings this year, didn't allow a run. He's interesting. He has been, a 3-5 guy, so I wouldn't give up anything big for him, but I mean it all depends on what the price tag is. So
Yeah.
but yeah, not really too excited about Rays players, not really too excited about Dodger players because you've seen basically the Dodgers get as much as they can, same as the Rays. They get as much as they can out of a guy for as long as they can, and then once they're ready to cut bait, it's usually not a good sign.
Yeah. Yep. I'm in agreement there with you. And last but not least, I guess teams been reaching out about a certain Angels infielder, Luis Rengifo. Last question before we go. We'll make this nice and easy. Are you trading him or are you keeping him?
Somebody's gonna overpay, sure. I think you're at a spot where um you kind of have a little bit of depth up the middle, not good depth, but you have some depth. Like you have Soto, you have Fletcher, you have the like one of those guys should start of the three: Rengifo, Fletcher, Soto. Not two, not three, one of them, and it really should be Rengifo out of the three. But if somebody's gonna overpaying and give me way too much, then yeah, absolutely. But I'm not really going out of my way to trade him. I think the guy who makes the most sense to trade on the MLB roster is Taylor Ward, like I said earlier. Um, Outfield is a pretty easy spot to go get a piece and add there. Also coming off a career year, and we kind of saw the up and down season with him, so he easily could be legit, but he's only got 2 years left before he's a free agent. So you really got to think about that as well, where it's like eventually, if we're going to be paying Otani, this roster is going to have to be very, very young and not spend a lot of money. So if we can get two or three pieces that are, 5 years away from free agency and are very good, then yeah, you have to think about it. But I mean, both those guys, honestly, they give the Angels a chance to win every day with the way they performed this year. but I don't know long term if they give the Angels the best chance to win.
Yeah, I think I know everybody's like, oh, play Rengifo in left, play him at first, play him
He
wherever.
barely plays second.
Yeah, he's not a good defender. So if somebody comes in and wows you, do it. But at the moment, he's your starting second baseman, and you need a shortstop. So, and nope, David Fletcher and Levon Soto are not your starting shortstops. Exactly what you said. You want one of those three guys starting, and if more of them are starting more often than not, we got ourselves a problem. So, guys, as always, thank you so much for listening to this podcast here at Talking Halos and watching us. If you could subscribe wherever you are listening or watching us, hello YouTube, go ahead and pound that subscribe button. Go ahead and check us out on our website, talkinghalos.com. That's up and rolling now. We're going to get a lot of fun stuff there. You can check out previous interviews. We'll just keep on rolling there with a lot of good content coming out here pretty soon, getting writers collected. So yeah, go ahead and follow us on all our social medias, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can follow myself on Twitter, Jared_Tims, Nate at NateGreen34. And guys, thank you so much for listening. Have a great rest of your day.